Welcome back to They Did What? Your source of the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, or later today, I'm covering part 2 to the story about the guy who gets R-pilled in the Philippines. And I don't need to go in any details. You all know what's going on because you just obviously saw this not too long ago. But let me tell you, it was worth the wait, hearing how this guy learns the hard way and then obviously becomes a whole new man after finally, after all his experiences, seeing reality. So he continues on. He says, so I left the bar with my uncle and I hired a trike and met up with Jezebel at the mall in a very nice, quaint cafe. She held my hand as we were seated and proceeded to tell me she was starving and hadn't eaten all day. She proceeded to order shrimp, calamari, and a platter of crispy pata, he says deep-fried pig, and a mango margarita. Well, the food arrived, we ate, and I have to tell you, it was some of the most delicious fresh food I've ever eaten. When the bill came, it was over 5,000 pesos, which was about $100. At least you got a good meal out of it, dude. I realized my cash was still at the bar in the safe. I pulled out my American Express Gold card. Jezebel lit up, gave me a sexy smile, and said, ooh. Yeah, she saw that credit card. Gee, what can this idiot buy me now? Jezebel had them box up all the leftovers, and she took them home. As we walked out of the cafe, she flirted, held my hand, and said she just wants to browse the shops for a few minutes before she had to go home. Do you know how many guys this girl does this to on a daily basis? Oh, let's go look at the shops. And these clueless idiots will buy her stuff. Let's just see if this guy's learned. Remember, this is the guy back in college that was paying for his girlfriend's tuition and buying her gifts and the free rent. Let's see if he's learned in his years here. It says here, an hour later, and over 30,000 pesos later, $600 my gold card, I bought her a bag, shoes, a few tops, and an umbrella. Smack! Clearly you haven't learned anything, idiot. She kissed me on the cheek, said she had to go home, and wanted to see me again. Well, sure. Of course you want to see again. You can buy her more stuff. I was so happy. I was falling in love, and I was dating the hottest girl I'd ever seen. Dude. Well, I texted my uncle and asked where he was, and he said to get over to the VFW as they were getting ready to go to the after party. I met up with him, and everybody went over to another bar for the after party. Scott was already there in a booth, totally shit-faced, surrounded by 3 topless hot chicks. He asked me how my date went, and I said, I found a keeper. He said to me, bullshit. There's no such thing, and pointed to one of the topless girls sitting there, and he said, he saved one for me, and we're doing nipple shots. Let me guess, Mr. Nice Guy, no, I don't want to do one of those. I said, I don't think I should do that. He said, bullshit, we're doing nipple shots. The girls already had about 10 shots on the table, ready to go. Scott pushed my head into the girl's boob, and another girl poured the shot over her boob into her mouth. Needless to say, we had a blast. But I couldn't get Jezebel out of my mind. What do you think, you're going to marry her? You're going to save her from this tough life over here in the Philippines? Mr. Nice Guy. Well, fast forward 9 days. Every day was like a rinse and repeat. Oh, you mean you spent all your money on her? I get up in the morning, go for a 5K run, go to the VFW with my uncle, have breakfast, then go to whichever bar was hosting the pool league. Scott would show up and we would joke, laugh, and flirt with the gals, and get buzzed on Red Horse. During these past 10 days, I'd meet up with Jezebel for dinner, drinks, and I was buying her presents here and there. Smack! You know, the smartest person in this whole thing so far is Jezebel. And how many guys do you think she has on this side doing this whole thing? Holy crap. Not to mention she probably has OnlyFans and all these other things. As Scott and I were talking, my uncle came over and said there was a farewell party for one of the expat pool team members tonight, and was going to go back to his home country, and it was going to be epic. It sounded like a blast, but I had dinner with Jezebel. He said, damn you boy, when are you going to learn? Man, your uncle should have been smacking you. Where are you going to go to dinner, and by the way, do you even know where this girl lives? I told him where we were going to have dinner and where she lived, and he said, fuck, dump her now, she's using you. I want to point out, gentlemen, I got to pause here and say, in these 10 days, I haven't heard anything about him getting laid. Nothing. Right? Meanwhile, just so like that, for next to nothing, he's probably spent thousands of dollars at this point. No pussy. The most beautiful girl in the world. When it would probably cost him like not even $50, if that, to get all he actually wants, you know. He says, number one, that restaurant is one of the most expensive places in this area. Number two, no bank clerk makes more than $300 a month can live in these condos. Those condos start at $750 a month. Do the math, boy. Who's paying for that condo? I bet you she's got a dozen different sugar daddies paying her and fucking her after she uses you for dinner and shopping. Guarantee she goes home and is fucking and sucking some other dude. What he said stung. I looked at Scott and he was buzzed and laughing, and then he said, "That be true, young boss," and continued to belly laugh in my face. Dude, you deserve to be laughed at. You're doing the same thing over there as you're doing over here. Where'd it get you? Every time. But these nice guys are so stubborn, they don't want to accept reality until it's just, guys like this usually hate on me, and then eventually they get hurt enough, then they end up writing me and saying, "You were right. I don't like you, or your personality, or you do videos in the car, or your sunglasses, or a whole laundry list of shit, but okay, you're right." I get those. Anyhow, my uncle then said to me, "Let me get this straight. You've been here for 10 days, you see this Jezebel every night, you buy her expensive dinners and buy her expensive gifts, you've never been inside her place, and all you've got is a kiss on the cheek. Do I have that correct?" And I said, "Yes, basically." Now, I've never seen my uncle really upset with me, but he slammed his hand on the table and asked me, "Do you know what it takes to get a girl in this country?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Nothing. Nothing at all." He said, "Nothing. Just tell them that you want them, and tell me what you want from them. Okay. Just tell them you want them and ask them when they can meet you at your place. That is it, and that is all." Right. In other words, he's just throwing out money at this girl so she doesn't have to do anything. But if you say, "Meet me here and there," and all that, they can have the hope they're going to get what they want out of it, but they got to give you what you want first. This is what it is. Scott was looking serious as well and said, "Yep, time to get up to the speed, bro." I acknowledged what my uncle said and was probably true. But I would go on this date with Jezebel just to let her know my final intentions and tell her my true feelings for her. Smack. Her true feelings. Dude, you don't have to say shit. She knows your true feelings. You are, through your actions, showing your true feelings every time you whip out your American Express gold card for her. Shit, if you had an American Express black card, I can't imagine what would happen then. Scott started laughing, and my uncle told me that's the problem. You never tell a girl your feelings. She will know you are weak, and she will use you and milk you for gifts and dinner. Is it any different over here in the US of A than it is in the Philippines? No. He says she's using her, dump her. Well, I said, okay, I'll dump her, but I want to try this one last date. Dude, you're an idiot. He shook his head and said, "Clown college move, but when everything goes south, call me and I'll let you know where we're at." So I agreed. Scott leaned over, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Bro, text her right now and tell her you're horny and you want to meet at a short-time hotel for a quickie before dinner. Then after you nail her, dump her and meet me at the bar." I said, "I couldn't do that. I'll call him after the date." I wish he would have done that to see what would happen, but our young guy has to go through with this. Our young guy and his dinner, which is coming up soon, which will see reality, he has to go through this to learn, so fine. And by the way, all this money he spent on her, if that literally teaches him what he needs to learn, that's money well spent. I hired again another trike and headed to the restaurant. When I arrived, Jezebel was standing out front. She looked stunning. She was dressed to the nines. She was hot. Jezebel grabbed my hand, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "I've been wanting to come here for so long, but I can't afford it." Ding, ding, ding. Right then, everything my uncle and Scott had told me came flooding back to my mind. As we walked in, we were greeted by two professionally dressed hostesses, and they asked us if we wanted to dine inside or outside. Jezebel said outside on the deck, near the outside bar. I immediately thought, if she hadn't been here, how does she know where to sit and there's an outside bar? Well, either she's been there before and she's lying to you, or she looked it up online, or who knows, but I'm guessing she's been there many times. She probably has all her guys take her there. My mom was racing with "dump her, she's using you, and I'm weak." The place was stunning. The outside dinner area was gorgeous. Candles on the tables, lights strung up, and backstage with a band playing soft music, and a nice full bar off to the side. We were seated by the hostess, and Jezebel immediately asked for a menu. But I said no. We're just going to order drinks first. There you go. There you go, my man. Finally, you're doing something right. As I wanted to spend some time talking before we ordered dinner. Jezebel looked a bit inconvenienced, but she shrugged and said, okay. As we made small talk, I noticed Jezebel kept looking over at the bar and smiling at this gentleman sitting there. Oh, that's real nice of her. She did this multiple times, and it was starting to bother me. I looked over, and the gentleman was smiling back at her. This guy oozed wealth. The way he was dressed and looked, he was literally a 50-year-old James Bond sitting there smiling at my girl. Your girl. She's lots of guys' girl, man. It was obvious Jezebel liked him and was flirting with him right in front of me. Yeah? Have you woken up yet, my friend? Well, I excused myself and told Jezebel I need to use the CR. I went to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, and asked myself what would my uncle do in this situation. Your uncle wouldn't be in this situation. Oh, that's right, my uncle wouldn't be in this situation. Yeah, exactly. I laughed and I had clarity. Everything my uncle and Scott told me was true. I walked out and started chatting with the hostess. I told her it was obvious Jezebel and the gentleman at the bar liked each other. Yes, Jezebel probably has a dozen guys just like this. Except this guy at the bar, he's been around the block. He knows he'll mess around and get laid that night. The hostess immediately replied, yes, sir, but I think she's acting disrespectful and inappropriately to you. Yeah, because now the hostess wants you. I told her I wanted to buy both a drink, to put both drinks on my table, and I wanted to close my bill. She said, yes, sir. I walked over to the gentleman, introduced myself, and I said his name was Dr. James such and such. I won't say his last name. I explained to him that I was on a date with Jezebel, but I didn't really know her, and that it was clear that she was interested in him, and he was interested in her. I asked him if I could introduce him to Jezebel, and that I already paid for the first round. This guy was like, okay, nice guy, sure, why not? He just looked at me curiously and then said that'd be nice. I walked him over and introduced him to Jezebel. I told her I'd be leaving, and she was in good hands with Dr. Such and Such, and to have fun. I walked back to the entrance of the restaurant, stopped, looked back at Jezebel, and she wasn't looking my way, and she was already touching him, smiling. See? There you go. You spent thousands of dollars on this broad, didn't get any action, and totally used. And right there, like that, you're done. See what this behavior gets you? But you know what? If you had to go through that, it was money well spent, if you truly learned. Well, I walked up to the hostess and told her she was beautiful, that I wanted her number, and asked her when was she available to be with me. Oh, okay. Now you're doing it different now. The hostess looked at me, smiled, and said, why not? I got her number, jumped into a trike, called my uncle, and said I'm on the way. They were at a cool bar down the road. When I arrived, my uncle just looked at me and smiled. And I said, yeah, it went south just like you said, and I dumped her. Well, dude, you redeemed yourself, but you still lost $4,000, or whatever it was. Scott was standing there and had a big smile on his face. My uncle turned to all the bar girls on the stage and shouted out loud, ladies, who wants to, with my nephew? Remember, this is a strip club, and guess what? They're all hookers. They all jumped up and down to get to me as quick as they could. It was hilarious. I think I was officially R-pilled that night. There you go. And that's a night you won't forget. I was in country with unlimited poontang, had spent over $4,000 on a chick in 10 days, and never got more than a kiss on the cheek. We got a booth, and Scott already had 3 chicks with him. I said fuck it and told the 3 chicks to have 3 of their friends come over for me. I got into his hotel that night and told my uncle I'd be staying at the hotel for the rest of my stay so I could have some privacy. He laughed and said it's about damn time. Now, it's a little... Okay, it's hard for me to believe that quickly you did a 180 and started acting like the bad boy playboy. I'm sure you're probably exaggerating a little bit how this went, but I do think that you learned a very valuable lesson, probably had some fun, but not so much as you're saying here. You learned a lot, obviously, and you dumped her, and obviously you had fun with those girls there, but I don't think you went James Bond overnight. But, it's a good story, and you did learn something, and this is important. It says here, we hung out at the bar until 3 a.m. Obviously, this is before you left. During that night, my uncle's retired military friends would come over one by one, saying stuff like, I hear you finally came to your senses. Are you finally having fun in the PI, son? And my favorite from my uncle's friend, a retired British SAS, said, did you finally get a bit of the crumpet? And I'm not sure what that actually meant, but I can imagine. Well, dude, think about it. Scott was leaving in 10 days, and I had 20 days left, so we hung out every day and partied. Dude, he had a month-long hangover. One memorable day, we rented motorbikes to check out bars and went south of our location. This area is real country with dirt roads. We found the area we were looking for, parked our bikes, and bar hopped all day and had a blast. That's awesome, man. You got a bro for life. Oh, and I almost forgot, on the way down one of those dirt roads, we were flagged down by a group of cops during a roadside inspection. You mean a roadside shakedown to Americans so they can get cash out of them? This is the most ragtag team of loser cops I've ever seen. Uniforms half on, guns barely in their holsters, some wearing flip-flops, and they were drinking rum under the banyan tree. The Philippine police force. The tipsy cops in charge said that we had to be fined because we weren't wearing helmets. Scott explained that we had rented the bikes and they didn't inform us of the helmet law. He doesn't give a shit. The clearly tipsy cop in charge said he apologized and they wouldn't be able to collect the fine in cash, so we could have to go to court. It'll be 500 pesos each. So, nothing, like $5. Scott handed him the cash, and I said, "Sir, I'm concerned about this, and we'll be coming back in this direction," and I asked him if we had to pay the fine again on our way back. The cop in charge said, "No, the fine is good all day, but if you come back tomorrow, you'll have to pay it again." On our way back, we were approaching the checkpoint, and we slowed down, pulling over, and they recognized us and waved us through, and we were good to go. Thumbs up. Scott and I laughed our asses off about that. By the way, over the next 10 days, Scott and I paid the fine 3 more times and made friends with the cops and even brought them a bottle of ESQ rum. I could write about those 10 days with Scott and my uncle that I hung out on, and I regret wasting the first 10 days on my trip with Jezebel. Dude, it took those 10 days of you being a dumbass, spending all that money and time with her for you to learn reality that you've taken back when you came back here, so, it was worth your time and money. I might have to write a book about my 3-day Mount Pinatubo trek that Scott and I took. We had 2 chicks from a village 30 miles away, delivered to our tents on top of the mountain next to a smoldering, lava-popping active volcano. Yeah, no thanks. Our translator and mountain trek guide said we were crazy Americans, but he loved us. Yeah, and he loved your tip. Well, after Scott left, I spent every day with my uncle and his expat friends, morning, noon, and night. Well, the day came for me to go back home, and my uncle hired the same 15-passenger van. And yep, there was a cooler of beer, and this time 3 chicks in the back. The game was on this time, and when we got to the airport, I chatted with my uncle, I told him I loved him and how grateful I was for his advice, and the fact that he took the ride back from the airport with me. Your uncle is your savior, dude. I mean, holy crap. It's going to take you 10 months to get over your hangover from all the drinking you're doing, and probably God knows what's crawling around your parts from all the chicks you banged. But I'm sure you're probably exaggerating the amount of chicks in action. I'm sure you got action, but not to the amount you're saying here. I know, guys, we all know how you guys exaggerate. But anyhow, your uncle's awesome. My uncle laughed and told me to stop crying, and there was a girl in Manila he was picking up to take back to the house as a new live-in. He laughed, gave me a hug, and I got on the plane. As I was boarding, my uncle sent me a link to your channel telling me to watch SSM. Oh, that's the best thing your uncle did for you. He forbade me from going back to my old ways. Yeah, and I'm forbidding you too, dude. That trip was over a year ago as I write this. Maybe I'll give you an update on what's been happening since, and all the many details I left out of the story. Forever RP, go SSM. And there you go, guys. And, wow. That was definitely an entertaining one, and this guy, like I said, these young guys, or guys of all ages, that have been brainwashed, conditioned to think a certain way, behave a certain way, they got to go through so much crap to finally wake up to reality. And again, around the world, men are the same, women are the same, human nature is the same. So I'm trusting you came back here a new man and no longer would go back to your old ways. Otherwise, 1, you have nobody to blame but yourself, but 2, you'll keep being used. But anyhow, that's a very good story, and I'm sure some things were exaggerated here, as guys tend to do with their storytelling about chicks, but I think the gist of it is you went there, you learned, and good for you. So, guys, there you go. Remember, all boys need a male role model. And guys, anybody that stumbles upon this channel and doesn't like content like mine or the other guys and things we say and think we're a bunch of assholes and haters and who hurt us and all that crap, look, we're guys that are older, middle-aged, or beyond. We've experienced, we've learned. You may not like what we say or have to talk about, but it is reality. And if you don't, at least educate yourself, hear some of this stuff, and be on the guard. You're going to be just like this guy being used, etc., etc. So, be warned. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share. Send it my way, strongsuccessfulmail@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And also, guys, if you are still around at this point, if you happen to be on X, formerly Twitter, come check me out. The handle is SSM Channels. Really trying to grow it over there because over here on YouTube, they don't promote me like the old days. And I got to do what I got to do to promote the channels. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.